Dear student, welcome to our science episode. Today we will discuss Unit 1, Lesson 2, Rate of Chemical Reaction. Rate of chemical reaction. What is the rate of chemical reaction? In the previous episodes, we discussed the chemical reaction itself. But the question is, does it have a speed or a rate? Yes, of course. Everything on Earth is limited by time. Some reactions take a very short time. They are very fast, like for example fireworks. Some reactions are relatively slow, such as the reaction of oil with caustic soda to form soap. Other types of reactions are very slow. They need months to occur, like iron rusting. And some reactions may take millions of years, such as formation of petroleum oil inside Earth. Let's have a look on decomposition of nitrogen pentoxide. Nitrogen pentoxide breaks up into nitrogen dioxide gas and oxygen gas. Both of the products are gases. Scientists measure the concentration of nitrogen pentoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and oxygen with time and write the data on the following table and present it on the following graph. This is the graph. Here is the concentration and here is the time. The concentration, represented by mole per liter, is represented on the vertical y-axis, while the time, the minutes, is represented on the horizontal x-axis. The blue line is showing the concentration of the nitrogen pentoxide, and the red line is showing the concentration of the nitrogen oxide. The green line is showing the concentration of the oxygen. Look at this table. Now you will find the time in minutes, concentration of reactants, and concentration of products. So here we are going to discuss the reactants, the sodium pentoxide, and here the two resultants or the products, the nitrogen oxide and the oxygen gas. At the beginning of the reaction, the concentration is 100% for the reactants. Of course, there are no products. After 2 minutes, the concentration of the nitrogen pentoxide will decrease and the concentration of the products will increase. After 4 minutes, the same. The concentration of the reactants will decrease again and the concentration of the products will increase until the end of the reaction, where there is no more reactant. The sodium pentoxide concentration 0 and the concentration of the products are 100%. So this is how we get the rate of the reaction, by measuring the concentration of the reactants and the products over time. Now we can define rate of chemical reaction as the change in concentration of the reactants and the resultants over or in a unit time. Let's together discuss this example. Adding colorless sodium hydroxide solution to blue copper sulfate solution. Look at this picture. When we are going to add this transparent solution or colorless solution of sodium hydroxide to the blue copper sulfate solution, what's going to happen? On adding sodium hydroxide to blue copper sulfate, colorless sodium sulfate and a blue precipitate of copper hydroxide is formed. This copper hydroxide will form a blue precipitate at the end of the reaction. My question is, how can we measure the rate of this chemical reaction? Simply by colors. So, the rate of disappearance of the blue color is equal to the rate of chemical reaction, or the rate of appearance of this precipitate, either this or that. Now, let's talk together about factors affecting the speed of chemical reaction. The speed or the rate of chemical reaction. The nature of reactants. Number 2, the concentration of the reactants. Number 3, the temperature of the reaction. And number 4, the catalysts or using catalysts. We're going to discuss each point in detail. Number 1, the nature of reactants. The kind of bonding in reactants. The surface area of reactants. What is the kind of bonding rule? Ionic compounds react faster than covalent compounds because the reaction in ionic compounds are between ions, while in covalent compounds the reaction is between molecules. This is the rule. Let's see together. These are covalent compounds. They are slow in reaction. Why? Because the reaction is between molecules bonded together, 2 hydrogen molecules. Water composed of 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen molecule. Ammonia, 3 hydrogen molecules and 1 nitrogen. So these are covalent compounds. When the reaction is between molecules, it's a slow reaction. While ionic compounds, the reaction is between ions, where you remember when we said that sodium will lose an electron and the chlorine will gain it. This occurs fast, immediately. So this is a fast reaction because they break up into ions, and ions react faster than molecules. Example of ionic compounds. Sodium chloride plus silver nitrate. It will give sodium nitrate plus silver chloride. Can you see the exchange between the elements? Sodium is exchanged for silver and silver is exchanged for sodium. Again, sodium chloride, the same compound, but representing the ions, the charges. Now, with silver nitrate, giving the same sodium nitrate plus silver chloride as a white precipitate. The reaction between ions in the second equation, it's showing you the reaction between ions, which is very fast. Now the surface area of the reactants. The speed of chemical reaction increases by increasing the surface area of the reactants. Let's see together in this picture, picture A and picture B. What is the difference between those two pictures? In picture A, the surface area is less than picture B. Here the surface area is larger. So more molecules are exposed to the reaction. So the rule says that the speed of chemical reaction will increase by increasing the surface area. This means that in picture B, the reaction will be faster. Let's see an example for the effect of surface area on the speed of a chemical reaction. By putting iron to hydrochloric acid and producing iron chloride and hydrogen gas. We will put, this is the procedure. In this flask, we will put iron fillings, this black iron fillings, and a piece of iron in conical flask 2. So flask 1 containing iron fillings. Iron fillings means iron powder, something like a powder. And in flask number 2, it's just a piece of iron. We will add diluted hydrochloric acid to both flasks. What can you see? The observation. The amount of hydrogen evolved from flask 1 is more than that evolved from flask 2. And we can say it in another way. We can say that hydrogen gas, the amount of hydrogen gas in flask 1 is more than the hydrogen gas produced from flask 2 in a certain amount of time, in the same amount of time. This means that the rate of reaction with the iron filling is faster than reacting with just a piece of iron, because in flask 1, the surface area and the molecules exposed to the reaction is more than in flask 2. Now the concentration of reactants rule. As the concentration, that's to say the number of molecules of the reactants increase, there will be more collision between molecules. Therefore, the speed of chemical reaction will increase too. If you can see here, more particles, more collision, and here less particles, less collision. So which reaction will be the faster? Of course, with more particles and with more collision. You know the steel scourer? The steel scourer used for cleaning aluminum pots. We will put it in a jar filled with oxygen, and we will try to put it in open air. In picture number B, it's inside a jar filled with oxygen. And in picture number A, it's in open air. So, the combustion of the steel scourer in the open air will be slower than inside the jar, like in picture B, because the concentration of oxygen inside the jar is more than in open air. Therefore, the speed of chemical reaction increases. Let's take another example. Magnesium plus hydrochloric acid. Look to the two test tubes. Here is magnesium ribbon in a hydrochloric acid solution. The result will be magnesium chloride. The magnesium will replace the hydrogen in this acid, and hydrogen gas will evolve. We will put diluted hydrochloric acid in tube A and an equal amount of concentrated hydrochloric acid in tube B. So tube A diluted, tube B concentrated acid. Put a piece of magnesium in each tube and look for the speed of the reaction. Of course, the reaction takes place in two tubes with the evolution of bubbles. More bubbles appear in tube B because it contains the concentrated hydrochloric acid. So whenever the concentration increases, the speed of the chemical reaction increases too. Now, the temperature of the reaction. The rule is when the speed of the chemical reaction increases, this means that we increase the temperature of the chemical reaction, or in another word, increasing the temperature of the chemical reaction will result in increasing the speed of chemical reactions. Why? Because of the frequent movement and collision between molecules. We have two figures, the yellow figure and the orange figure. In the yellow figure, look to the movement of the particles, they are slow. Look to the arrows, they are moving, but slow movement in case of low temperature. But look to the orange diagram or the orange picture, the particles are moving very fast due to high temperature. As a result, the speed of the chemical reaction in the orange one will be more than the yellow due to increase or high temperature. Let's see together the effect of temperature on the speed of the chemical reaction by using effervescent tablet. We will fill the glass or the beaker with water, hot water, and the other one with cold water. Try to put an effervescent tablet to each glass of water or beaker. What are you going to find or observe? The effervescent tablet will dissolve in hot water faster than the cold one. Why? Because, as we said, the speed of the reaction in hot water is more due to more frequent collision and movement of particles. What about catalyst? What is a catalyst? A catalyst is a substance that can change. It can increase or decrease the speed of the chemical reaction without itself being changed. We have types of catalysts. We have a positive catalyst if it will increase the speed of chemical reaction. And we have a negative catalyst that will decrease the speed of the chemical reaction. Look at this picture. This green is a catalyst. Catalyst, it means a helper for the reaction. Maybe this helper will increase the speed of the reaction or will decrease the speed of the reaction. These are the reactants. They will become bonded or they will combine with the catalyst. The reaction will happen and then the products will come out, leaving the catalyst unchanged. Most catalysts speed up the reaction. They are positive catalysts, by the way. What are the characteristics of a catalyst? Look at this picture. Again, this is the catalyst in orange, and these are the reactants. They will combine with the catalyst and the reaction will happen, and then the products will leave the catalyst unchanged. But what are the characteristics? It changes the rate of the chemical reaction, but it does not affect its beginning or stopping. No chemical changes or decrease in the mass of the catalyst before or after the reaction. I told you that it will enter the chemical reaction and leave unchanged. It is bonded to the reactants and then gets separated. It decreases the energy needed for the reaction. Excuse me. A small amount of a catalyst is usually enough to complete the reaction. The decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. Let's see together the procedure for this experiment. We will put an equal amount of hydrogen peroxide in 2 flasks, and then we will add a small amount of manganese dioxide in the second flask. What's our observation? The amount of bubbles in the tube with manganese dioxide is more than the other without. This means that the manganese dioxide is a catalyst. It's a catalyst. It is used in this experiment to increase the chemical reaction speed and increase the rate of decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. Manganese dioxide is a positive catalyst that increases the speed of decomposition of hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen. How do we know? From the production of bubbles in flask number 2. The bubbles is, of course, oxygen gas. Now, let me ask you, do our bodies contain catalysts to increase the biological reactions in our body? Is there any chemical reaction in our body? Yes, there is. Do we have catalysts in our bodies? Yes. The human body contains thousands of enzymes. These enzymes are called catalysts. They act as catalysts. These are chemical substances produced by the body of the living organism, and they act as catalysts which increase the speed of biological reactions. Dear students, thank you for watching and wishing you the best of luck.